Hello and welcome back to my YouTube channel. I'm Harry Cousin, freelance football journalist for BBC Sport and others, and it's just gone full time at St James's Park. Newcastle United 2, Burnley 0. I've just also jumped off the True Faith instant reaction pod, so go check that out as well. What a result in the end for Newcastle. It wasn't particularly outstanding, but it was workmanlike, it was professional, it was routine, and it was solid. And I think that's what Newcastle need to be in these games in the Premier League, building up and recovering from those huge Champions League and obviously Carabao Cup games as well, Newcastle Man City, and then Newcastle Man United as well in that competition. So it's not going to stop, it's relentless, and Newcastle did the job again today. They were fantastic, particularly in the second half. It was really impressive the way that they grew into the game, and I think I've been previously quite critical of Newcastle for the lack of pressing. There's stats to back up the fact that they're not doing it as much anymore, but I did acknowledge that it's kind of on purpose. It's deliberate to deal with the more games and deal with the intensity differences in the games as well. But they've sort of traded it off for more dominance in midfield and more dominance in possession, and that ability to grow into games and deal with situations as they go. And I think that was really evident in this one, because Burnley started very well. They had a couple of good chances, a bit like Sheffield United last week, actually. People forget that. But Sheffield United had a really good chance early on, and that could have changed the game. Burnley did as well. Nick Pope made a fantastic save. And Newcastle just grew into the game. Bruno was back to his absolute best again. Dominant, dictating the play. Trippier, superb. Set up Almiron for... I joked on the podcast that it kind of feels a bit... Could you say trademark? Because I've seen that goal scored against Everton, that goal scored against Aston Villa, and that goal scored again today. It was an absolutely superb finish from Almiron. The nature of that goal, the fact that he could have passed and took a moment to think about it, consider it, kind of shows the development that both Eddie Howe and Kieran Trippier as well have had on Almiron's game generally. I think going forward, that's why the main reason why Trippier will always play right back when he can. He'll not move to left back to accommodate Tino Livramento, because that breaks up a key relationship for Almiron and sort of tampers with two positions on the pitch and an entire flank for Newcastle. So if that changes, then that might weaken Almiron's game. And I think the fact that they've got such a strong relationship proves that Eddie Howe is right to stick with Almiron, but also to maintain Trippier at right back as well. Another great performance for Sean Longstaff. Again, I've mentioned this so many times that I think Longstaff is the reason why Newcastle have now got 5 clean sheets in a row. The fact that he came in and allowed Bruno to express himself a bit more. There were nice link-ups in the second half. Unfortunately, that Tonali was on the pitch because he started on the bench and came on for Joelinton, who in turn had just arrived on the pitch a few minutes earlier. Went off with what looks like a hamstring injury, but I'm sure we'll find out more. Tonali, I thought, looked nice little link-ups. He looked a little better, but I think that mainly comes from the fact that Bruno is much more comfortable. I said this after Sheffield United, that Bruno looks back to his best, and that's probably down to Longstaff. Anthony Gordon, busy again as well. Fantastic performance from him. Again, unfortunately, he'll miss West Ham on Sunday because of a booking that he picked up. This is now his 5th booking. It's just sort of an occupational hazard with a player like him. But I'm not, to be honest, I'm not convinced that he would have actually played because of the number of games. I think he's been due a rest, and he's come on in the last couple of games, and he'll probably play against PSG now, obviously, as well. And there's 2 games to consider, and I think that one would have been the one where he'd have been rested. Chance that Elliot Anderson probably starts on the left and Tonali comes in from midfield, depending on what happens and fitness-wise on Wednesday against PSG. But no, just Newcastle absolutely fantastic overall, professional, grew into the game, dictated it. And the thing that to remember about this game is that it was all about the victory. It was all about the result, a little bit like Brentford, and they turned up and just did a professional job. And I think that shows the maturity of Newcastle. It shows the confidence of Newcastle, that it wasn't exuberant, it wasn't them at their very best. They were just there when they needed to be. And even Alexander Isak, who missed a hatful of chances in that first half, courtesy mainly of Kieran Trippier, who was brilliant going forward and in defence as well. As Newcastle grew into the game in the second half and did have those spells of intensity, he was central to him, dropping into those holes and making space for others. And I think he wasn't at his best, but he was still effective in ways that he would have been. So absolutely, overall, a perfect performance for Newcastle to go into Wednesday. Unfortunately, without Joelinton, and obviously the news about Sven Botman before the game, reports that he's out for a month. We'll obviously hear more about that before the PSG game and after this one over the next few days as to how serious that is. But big problems if he is generally, but specifically against PSG, given the quality they have. Kylian Mbappe Ousmane Dembele and Randall Kolo Muani come at St James's Park on Wednesday. But we wouldn't have it any other way, would we? Newcastle back in the Champions League for the first time at St James's Park on Wednesday. I'll be at the press conference on Tuesday, so I'll bring you some coverage, as I mentioned, from St James's Park, hopefully. Then hopefully I'll be at the game. I'm still not sure whether the accreditations come through yet for me for Wednesday, but I'll certainly be recording something between now and then. So I'll see you next time. Please continue to like, share and subscribe, and I'll catch you then. Cheers.